Shona Radcliffe is an accomplished career development expert and the head of programs at the GradSoc. With a passion for helping students and graduates excel in their careers, she has dedicated her journey to providing accessible internships, career support, and employability resources. Having successfully completed multiple internships and work experience during our university's years, Shona deeply understands the importance of creating opportunities and developing a powerful personal brand on LinkedIn. Our expertise in these areas has helped countless young individuals thrive in the job market. Shona's commitment to continuous learning led her to achieve a postgraduate cert in career development. She actively shares valuable employability advice with students and graduates through platforms like TikTok and LinkedIn. Shona, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Very excited to be here.
Yeah. I'm so happy to also have you here. And congratulations on your graduation.
Thank you very much.
That's quite interesting. But what was the experience? I think let me just start from what was the experience like studying postgraduate certification in career development? What was it like for you?
Yes. So, I recently graduated with a distinction in my postgraduate certification in career development because careers is an area that I am so interested by. And it kind of got to a stage where I was like, I want to make sure that I can provide, every single student, every single graduate that I speak to on a daily basis with, the best information possible. And I thought, in order to do that, I really want to properly study this area that I'm passionate about. So completed a year's course. Luckily, I was able to choose the kind of topics that I wrote my assignments on. So I naturally focused all of those surrounding students and graduates as well, and ways in which we can help students and graduates with their career development. So fantastic year-long course. I'll admit it, I'm a bit of a nerd. I missed university when I finished it. I missed kind of studying and researching and learning. So it was really fantastic to be able to do that. And now, I get to share that knowledge in my everyday work with the GradSoc, with the students and graduates that we work with. So it was a really fantastic time.
Great, Shona. That's really beautiful. So, but what has been your experience like? Just tell us about your story, before transitioning and getting that position as a head of programs at the GradSoc.
Yes. So though I now work in careers, I originally studied fashion, which is a little bit different. And you can tell from, if anyone stalks my LinkedIn, I've had a little bit of a journey doing multiple different internships and bits of work experience to kind of get to where I am now, because I, like many students and graduates, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I picked a university course about something that I was just interested in. And I thought, I'll figure this out as I go along, which I definitely did. I kind of moved from fashion into marketing. When I was doing marketing, that's when I used LinkedIn a lot. I actually gained a lot of my internships and work experience through LinkedIn, which I'm sure we'll naturally come to in a little bit as well. But then I kind of transitioned into marketing, and I ended up getting a marketing internship with this lovely company called the GradSoc, who coincidentally happened to help students and graduates with their careers. And I kind of accidentally found my spark and my real love for the kind of careers space, which, I'm relatively new in. I've only been working in careers for just over 2 years full time now, but I am learning and continuing to help students and graduates learn as well, which is amazingly rewarding. But it's lovely as well to be able to speak to people on a daily basis who are so similar to my own age, as that's something we've heard from a lot of students and graduates. The career advice they've had is from people who can sometimes maybe be a little bit out of touch with what it's actually like to be a student and graduate in a kind of post-COVID world and everything like that, using technology such as LinkedIn to create opportunities and everything like that. But that's kind of my quick career journey. Fashion, went into marketing, discovered careers, and here I am now. Really excited to kind of continue on that journey.
Your stories are kind of very, very interesting because oftentimes we hear a student who wants to transition from a particular course to different course. Like, for example, you want to transition from maybe business to technology. Looking at your story, transitioning from fashion to marketing and down to career. And I'm sure that your story would resonate with a lot of students out there who are still trying to, find a fit, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But thank you so much for sharing that, Shona. So, Shona, what do you think? Why do you think it is important to have a strong LinkedIn profile for students in the job market?
Mhm. Yeah, so there's a couple of different reasons in terms of how LinkedIn can be beneficial for students. One of them is that it's essentially a virtual CV. Another one is that it allows people to find you. And a third one is it allows you to build a network with people who otherwise you would be able to have no contact with. You know, if you are changing industries, changing into marketing, for example, or changing into business, changing into technology, you can begin to create that journey for yourself using the platform. There's so many different uses, but I'd say those are usually the kind of top three that students and graduates, the benefits that they feel. That's usually how it benefits most people.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that. Aside from it being an online digital CV, a lot of students would have challenges on how to draft their CV and also draft their LinkedIn. Okay, so now that the LinkedIn is a digital CV for potential employers to see their professional experience or background, what are the key elements that makes a LinkedIn profile stand out?
So I'd say first thing, filling all of it out. It takes a long time to do. I know it's really weird to have to fill it all out because you think, well, I've got my CV, but honestly, filling every single section out is genuinely probably the best bit of advice I can give for a LinkedIn profile. The more you fill out, the stronger it's going to be. But I'd say two main things that I'll probably focus on here. One is adding personality, and another is specifying your skills. So in terms of adding personality, a lot of people forget that LinkedIn is a social media platform. It's not just a digital CV, it's actually a social platform. And you can show so much more personality on LinkedIn than you ever could with your CV. CV, it's a piece of paper. It's so hard to show who you actually are from a single piece of paper. Whereas on LinkedIn, you have a photograph, you have a header, you have your About Me section, which is a fantastic space that you can convey to people who you are, what you're interested in, your passions, your motivations, where you want to be. You can add in emojis, you can talk in your natural style of language. All of these things that could give a recruiter, a hiring manager, or even someone who's having a little bit of a stalk on your profile, more of an insight into what you're like as a person, as again, that in itself could help create opportunities for you. So I'd say adding a bit of personality, not being afraid to do that, is a really good step. And then as well, what I mentioned about specifying your skills. So this is something that we see on CVs, and it's just as applicable to LinkedIn. A lot of people, when talking about their previous experience, if it's education, internships, anything like that, it's very tempting to just list the responsibilities you had, whether that was like working on the till, serving customers, or writing essays, anything like that. Those are the actions that you've done. What you can do to develop on that is literally name the skills that these actions have given you. Did that give you communication skills? Did that give you research skills? Did you give that attention to detail skills? All of these different things as well, because I'm actually writing in those words. That makes it easier for hiring managers, recruiters to understand what skills you've got, but it also lets them find you if they are searching using like LinkedIn Recruiter or any of these kind of software. So I'd say those are the two top profile tips: personality and making your skills really, really clear. As within graduate and entry level roles, they won't expect you to have done those responsibilities before, not all of them, but they want to see the potential. And the thing that demonstrates potential is your transferable skills. So making sure you've got all that filled out, I'd say is usually a good first step for the LinkedIn profile.
Thank you so much for that, Shona, because I think, like what you said, being a digital platform and identifying that LinkedIn is actually a social platform. Everybody wants to know what are your values from there. How do you communicate? What are the kind of comments you post on people's post, or what kind of post you support, or what kind of post your knowledge is about. So, but aside from that, right? How can now, for example, now the student have filled in details on their LinkedIn, which can be time consuming to fill in all of those boxes on LinkedIn. How can they now get noticed by employers?
Very good question. So the next steps from here, again, two different kind of routes you can take. One of them is sending connection requests and the other is posting. And both of those are equally intimidating, I'd say, to students and graduates. I put off posting for ages and ages, but I've got a really good anecdote to kind of demonstrate how good it can actually be for students and graduates. I'll start off first with sending connection requests. As mentioned, LinkedIn is a social media platform, but it's a little bit different to like Instagram and Facebook and things like that. On those platforms, it would be considered a little bit weird if you just sent out like friend requests or follow requests to people working in companies you want to work for. It's not the done thing. Whereas on LinkedIn, it's expected, and that's what people use it for. You know, we don't know however many percentage of our connections, they're people that we're interested in, who maybe work in the industry we want to work in, work for a company we'd love to work for, or work in a role that we're considering working for as well. So I'd say students and graduates research, these things, find out the communities that are talking about the topics you're interested in, find other people's posts, see who's commented on those posts, and use that to be able to find people who are relevant to you and send out those connection requests. Within your connection requests, again, personalize them where possible, as that makes it so much more likely that people are going to accept. If they're people who post really regularly on LinkedIn, they're going to get so many connection requests every single day. So personalize it, add a little message in, say something nice. Did you see their post and you really liked it? You could even ask them for advice, saying, hi, I really want to work for this company in the future. I'd love to hear about your career journey. People love talking about themselves and talking about their own career journeys, just as I have on this podcast. So I'm sure that people will be more than happy to give you a little bit of advice on how they got where they are today. Particularly if you mentioned that you're a student or a graduate and you show that enthusiasm. So many people are absolutely lovely and will be willing to start that conversation with you. That's one thing in terms of sending connection requests, because the first thing that person will do is go and look at your profile to assess whether they want you in their network or not. So if you've got a really fantastic profile, they can know from your profile who you are, what you can do, what your aspirations are. They're going to know they want you in your network, and they might bear you in mind for any future opportunities as well. So that's in terms of you reaching out to people. Now, making posts on LinkedIn, it doesn't feel on the surface as active as connection requests do, because with connection requests, you can see when someone accepts, they've seen your profile. Posting is a bit more of a long game. But I've got a really good anecdote to kind of demonstrate how things can be happening behind the scenes, even if you don't really know it yourself. So, for example, I started on LinkedIn. I had no idea how to use the platform. I didn't really know what to post about because I thought, well, I'm not an expert in this industry. I'm a student. I don't have any thoughts. I don't have any ideas. So I was really scared to start posting for ages. But then TikTok came about and I was really interested in TikTok. This was maybe like 2019. So it had been going for a couple of years. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start posting about TikTok and how good it is for marketing, like companies that are using it really well, purely because that is something that really interested me. And I didn't really care if anyone saw the posts or not. I was enjoying doing it. But I'd been putting out, posts about TikTok for a good couple of months. It wasn't even on a regular basis. I didn't think, I better sit down and write a post now. It was when I found something I was interested to talk about. And I did posts about TikTok pretty regularly. They didn't get loads of engagement. The first 15 probably got about solid 3 likes, and 2 of them were probably my uni friends, where I was like, please go and like my LinkedIn post. So it wasn't getting loads of likes, but you will notice on LinkedIn, even if the reactions are low, the views are always really high. Even on those posts where it was 3 likes, it was 300 views, and that didn't really compute in my head. I didn't think 300 people know who I am sort of thing, because it seems crazy to think of. But then after I'd been doing that for a couple of months, someone else in another company had done a post on LinkedIn saying, we're really looking for someone to freelance for us and do our TikTok for us. Does anyone know anyone who knows TikTok? I didn't see this post. I didn't know this company. But at least 3 to 4 different people who I didn't know tagged me in the comments of that post saying, Shona knows TikTok, Shona's good at TikTok, just because they'd seen me posting about it. So they knew that I was good at TikTok just from me doing my posts. Again, I had no idea they were consuming my content. I had no idea they knew who I was. But by getting your name out there, by getting your face out there, and by talking about topics you're interested in, people will automatically start to associate you with that. So if, like this, an opportunity comes up, you might get put forward to it by someone you've never actually spoken to. That is how amazing LinkedIn can be. And again, it takes you putting yourself out there, making yourself a little bit visible to kind of start that journey. So yeah, by all means, connection requests and posting are the ways you can get people to look at your profile. And again, if your profile is in fantastic shape, then that's only going to work well in your favor.
So should students also kind of engage in TikTok videos on maybe topics they're interested in? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so TikTok, I mean, I absolutely love TikTok. I am embarrassed of how high my screen time is for it still. But because obviously at the GradSoc, we speak to students and graduates, we know that that is one of the social media platforms where we're going to be able to reach them the most easily. Again, I think far more careers experts need to get on TikTok and share information, because it is true there is a lot of kind of misinformation going around on there as well. But no, TikTok is a fantastic platform and it's fun. That's the thing about careers advice. It's so easy for it to be really boring. And talking about LinkedIn as well, you know, I remember when I first joined LinkedIn, I was like, oh my God, this is the most boring platform in the world. But if you make it interesting to you and you tailor your feed and you connect with people who excite you, it can be just as enjoyable as other social media platforms. But yeah, TikTok for careers advice, again, it's just in a different format. People love learning through podcasts, through videos, things that aren't just reading a really long blog post. So if we can make careers information interesting, then I think that's a fantastic thing to be able to do.
I totally agree with you on that, Shona, in making career services interesting and just kind of ease out a little bit compared to having your suit up every time and looking too serious about it. Yeah, because some of the students really want a relaxed environment. And if they don't get it, some things might not resonate to them as to learning, because everybody have a different methodology to learning and assimilating information. And I totally agree with you, making career services more enjoyable and fun, you know, compared to what it is today. But I think that's where the world is going to at the moment. But coming back to LinkedIn, which is a digital CV for every professional out there. What are the common mistakes you've seen people make on LinkedIn profile that you think they should avoid making, especially the students?
Definitely. So, I mean, first one we've kind of already covered is people not filling out their complete profile because, you know, maybe they started, they lost interest. I'd say it's so worth doing, and keep it updated as well. We often see people create a profile, not understand how the platform works, and then ghost it and only remember they've got it when they realize, oh no, I need a graduate job, and then quickly come back to it and start posting like 5 times a week. I'd say getting on it and getting active. You know, you don't have to start posting right away. You can start by commenting on other people's posts, learning what kind of things people usually talk about, which can then give you inspiration for when you get started, that kind of thing as well. So yeah, staying active, because as well, on a LinkedIn profile, people can see when you were last active in terms of posts and comments. So for example, if a recruiter did find your profile thinking, you know, oh, they're the perfect fit for this graduate role, but then they saw you hadn't commented on anything in 6 months, chances are they might assume, you know, that profile is inactive, so they might not message you. And we really want to avoid that where possible. So keeping some kind of recent activity on there is a really good thing to do. I mentioned before in terms of expanding on your skills, and by that, definitely LinkedIn works a lot through keywords. So the more information you have on there, the more keywords you have, again, the higher chance you have of getting noticed. So where possible, add in details about things that you've done. And again, this goes for your CV as well. So within your experience section, expanding upon the actions, adding in the skills, adding in context, results, everything like that. Because again, it's so easy to forget that recruiters, hiring managers, they don't know you. They don't know a single thing you've done. They can only go off the information that you put on this profile. So in order to stand yourself with kind of the best chance possible, definitely upload as much information as you can. With LinkedIn as well, again, because it's a social media site, you can link in actual evidence of your skills. So you can link your blog, you know, your podcast, your YouTube channel, links to essays that you've written. There's the option to upload files. You can do all of that. So you can't just like talking about your skills, you can evidence them as well by adding in a website and stuff like that. So it's dead easy for someone to click and see your experience. You can do that for your overall profile. You can add a web link, or you can do it in the individual experience as well. All of these things are super duper helpful for a profile. I'd say as well, making the most of little bits that you can show your personality of. Again, I mentioned before the About Me section, but even things like the header at the top. That is a really fantastic way to show a bit of creativity and show a little bit more about your personality. Websites like Canva have free templates where you can design your own little banner. But things such as, for example, if you are a really kind of bubbly, chatty, excitable person, using like bright colors and rounded fonts in your header, immediately someone seeing your profile, they will get a feel for what your personality is before they even read it. Little things like that again, it's really hard to do on a CV. You can only really do it in an interview. So little things like that can really help to differentiate you and kind of make you stand out as well. Trying to think of other kind of common mistakes. I'd say, connecting and accepting everyone's connection requests. With LinkedIn, I mentioned before, if your feed is tailored to you, it's actually going to be enjoyable to scroll on. But if you accept connection requests from anyone in any industry, your feed is going to be all over the place. So, keep it niche, keep it to what you're interested in. And then the posts in your feed are actually going to be enjoyable to consume. I'll say as well, if you find yourself scrolling LinkedIn and feeling a little bit down, as this is what we've heard from quite a few students and graduates, that sometimes LinkedIn can make them feel a little bit down because it seems like everyone else is, achieving things, getting internships, getting graduate jobs, all of this stuff as well. It can feel a little bit negative if you haven't got that. You can unconnect with people. I'm putting that out there. It's the same as every other social media platform. If there's someone who's constantly doing stuff and it's making you feel bad, by all means unconnect. But it's worth saying as well, LinkedIn is people's absolute highlight reel in terms of professional things. People aren't out there posting on LinkedIn about, their failures, their struggles, things like that. It's not as commonly thought about. So I'd say, keep an eye on your connections. Make sure your feed is really tailored to you, as again, it will make LinkedIn so much more of an enjoyable place to be on as well.
I see there that you've kind of touched around your expertise in marketing, because you mentioned things around colors. You mentioned how shapes makes the impact of shapes in presentation, which is quite interesting.
Definitely a little bit of color psychology in there as well.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's what the UX experts uses also. They kind of play with people's psychology when they're designing platforms for users. Thank you so much for that, Shona. So, Shona, I was going to ask something around profile picture. What are the do's and don'ts in profile pictures?
Definitely, yes. So a lot of people, LinkedIn makes them a little bit nervous because they are, putting their actual face out there in front of all of these professionals. But I'd say think of it like a passport picture, but fun. So passport in the sense of it should be, pretty plain, just kind of your face. They should be able to see you, like avoid group pictures, avoid pictures that are really kind of blurry, a good quality so people can kind of, see what you look like. But I think the most important thing for a LinkedIn profile picture is make sure you're smiling. Again, this is kind of going into like a bit of psychology, but if you smile, then someone will automatically smile back. It's what I give students and graduates advice for in interviews. If you smile, it's just psychology. Chances are someone's going to smile back at you as well. So if you can just have a nice smile on your face in your LinkedIn profile, naturally in our kind of human minds, it'll probably make someone feel a little bit more connected to you. So simple things such as, clear background, they can see your face. I'd say don't worry about like necessarily even like professional kind of clothing. I think I'm literally just wearing like a average kind of vest top in mine. People have added in colors behind them, for example. Like some people I know really love like the color pink, so it's just them cut out and they've got pink behind them, and that's fantastic because I can always recognize it's their profile when I'm just scrolling along LinkedIn because I see that kind of burst of pink and I know who it is. Again, you can add in these little personal touches to that profile as well. But I'd say honestly having a nice smile is probably a really good part of the picture. It feels a lot more kind of human and creates that sense of connection that's sometimes a little bit hard to do online.
Now we've spoken about the profile picture side of things, because you see some profile pictures where you see students having their friends in maybe a bar or at the beach or some destination. Recruiters finding that you don't know who the owner of the profile is. So it was very important, when you shared around having to stand out using your profile. And I didn't know that bit of smiling, having to smile. Thank you so much for that, Shona. So, with all of these tips now that you've shared around how how students can actually stand out on their LinkedIn profile, that is them doing the work of posting, making network, following people, making sure that all the segments on LinkedIn is filled up. Now, what does the role of networking play on LinkedIn? And how can students build meaningful connection within their industry of choices?
Yeah. So when it comes to networking, I think networking in itself is a very scary word for students and graduates, as in university, that was the kind of main LinkedIn tip. It was like, use LinkedIn to network. And then I realized I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what LinkedIn was. I didn't know how to network. And in my head, I kind of thought, oh, networking is just when serious business people talk to other serious business people. I didn't think that I could network as a student or graduate. And if I did, I had no idea where to begin. But basically, you can get started by networking as a student and graduate by just starting conversations with people that interest you. So, for example, that could be people who work in a company you'd love to work for, they work in a role you'd love to work in, or maybe they work in an industry that interests you as well. All of these different things, as again, these professionals, if they're on LinkedIn, chances are they're open to being reached out to as well, and they'll have some kind of advice to give. And LinkedIn is basically a facilitator to facilitate that conversation, because it's unlikely you'd end up in a room at like a conference or something with these people. So LinkedIn is the way that you can start that conversation and start that network. So what you can do, again, to begin those conversations is start by doing a little bit of research to actually find these people. And you can do that through a couple of different means. One of the ways is, first of all, obviously figuring out what industry you'd like to work in, you'd like to find connections in, using marketing as an example here. And LinkedIn search features are really, really fantastic. They've got loads of different filters, but it could even be as simple as going into the search bar and typing like marketing news. And then chances are it will come up with suggested posts of people who are talking about that. Then you go onto those posts, look in the comments, as everyone who's commented on that post is going to be, interested in marketing. They're probably going to be knowledgeable about marketing, and you can connect with all of those different people to begin building a relevant network. Then what you can do when these people accept your connection request, so that means, you've sent a little message, they've accepted it, then you can begin an actual one-to-one message and one-to-one conversation. And again, as a student and graduate, this can feel a little bit weird because chances are you've never really done this before. The most experience you've had chatting to professionals may have been in job applications or to your university tutors. So it's a bit kind of weird having a one-to-one chat, but again, that's what LinkedIn is there for. These people will be one-to-one chatting with so many other people, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to give you advice. So again, with these conversations, it's best not to go in asking for something, like don't ask for a job, don't ask for like a CV review, but you can ask for advice, as that is the one thing that it's fairly easy for them to give. They could maybe send you a voice note back or just some really quick tips or anything like that. Again, you can ask via message, and then you can determine maybe whether they're free for a call. Again, most people a message is a really good thing to do. So ask them questions that are really simple and quick for them to answer, as again, we want to make it as easy as possible for them to respond if they are, super duper busy. So you could ask them about their career journey. You can maybe say, oh, I saw you worked in this internship before you got this role. Could you tell me about how you made that transition across industries? Make it super specific. Ask them what their favorite thing about working for the company is. Ask them, any things like that you can get a bit of an insight into that you wouldn't be able to find from a Google search. And again, once that conversation has started, you never know where that can lead. That's the wonderful thing about LinkedIn, because that person, even though, there may be no current internships open or anything like that, if they get to know you, even if you had a conversation and, it ended like a month ago, if they then are hiring for something or they see a job pop up, they're so much more likely to recommend you for it, to send you the link, to put you in touch with someone. And again, you may have 10 conversations and only one of them leads somewhere. That's all that really matters, because you've created that lead for yourself. LinkedIn is a fantastic way to create your own opportunities. You're not necessarily waiting for things to come to you. And if you have a passion for the thing that you want to learn about, if you're passionate about the industry, people can really tell. So yeah, that's how we usually recommend getting started with networking. Find people who interest you and just start a little conversation. Again, Not everyone will reply. A lot of people are super busy, so send out quite a few messages, but make sure you're putting the effort into each and every one, as you never know what it could lead to, even 6 months, a year down the line. Starting those conversations as soon as possible.
Thank you so much for that, Shona. I mean, you mentioned around starting the conversation with new networks on LinkedIn. Now, a lot of students would start the conversation and not follow up. So what would you say is the importance of following up a conversation or following up with the new connections you've made on LinkedIn?
Yes, so I'd say with any follow-ups, again, keep it specific, like give them something to reply to and make it interesting. I've had a lot of different conversations on LinkedIn where out of the blue, someone who maybe connected with me 3 months ago sent me a message saying, "Hi, how are you?" And whilst that's a nice message, I have no idea why they're messaging me. I have no idea what this conversation is going to be about. I have no idea what's going to come next. So I have to say, like, "Hi, how are you?" And then it takes them a bit to send a message back. Whereas if they'd said, like, "Hi, Shona, I'd love to chat with you about this. Do you have a moment to answer some questions?" That makes it so much easier for me to understand what the purpose of the conversation is going to be, what they're after, what we're going to be talking about. So I'd say in any follow-ups you send, making it as easy as possible for the person to reply by letting them know what you're interested in, giving them specific things, or where possible, really quick and easy questions to answer. Then once you've started to have a bit of a conversation, they've told you about their career history, they've told you about a really exciting project they're working on, they've told you which bit of marketing news they recommend, which newsletter they think you should sign up to, then you can bounce off that and continue the conversation. And that in itself is a skill. You probably won't be able to naturally continue every single conversation. But again, even by practicing these skills, you are putting yourself in such a good position for the workplace. Learning how to talk to people who are more senior than you, who are more experienced than you. You're developing skills even just by doing that. In terms of further follow-ups, you've had a conversation, that conversation's ended, you want to follow up in maybe like a month's time, you can usually find a reason to drop them a message. Maybe they've done a LinkedIn post that you have thoughts on, you have opinions on. You can message them personally and say, "Oh, I saw your LinkedIn post about this. These are my thoughts," or "Have you considered this?" If you've seen an article or a book that's about topics they're talking about, you can message them that. If there's a marketing campaign you've seen that they might be interested in, so having a reason to start that conversation is really good. Or again, you could ask for a little bit further advice. Maybe they gave you a tip. They said, "Oh, you should go away and try doing this, start your own blog," or whatever it is. You can follow back and show how proactive you've been. You can say, "I know we chatted a couple of months ago about starting our own blog. Since then, I've put together this website and I've written a couple of articles and I thought I'd send you the link." Having a reason to engage with them, that's what makes an interesting conversation. It's far better than, "Hi, how are you?" "I'm good, thanks. How are you?" "Oh, I've just been working at university." "Oh, that's really interesting." That's a very normal conversation, but going above and beyond and talking about things in the industry, again, it proves that you're interested in that industry. It demonstrates your passion. If they can see you're signing up for newsletters, you're reading current news articles about what's going on, that is a really fantastic thing to them to be able to see. And that will put you, head and shoulders above the crowd, because very few people actually go ahead and do that. So that's kind of my general advice when it comes to sending follow-ups, either right after connecting or a little bit later down the line.
Thank you so much for that, Shona. And you mentioned around communication skills there. And it could be very nerve-wracking for most especially students, because they feel like the people who are executive are too far up there that they cannot speak to. And if they can own their skills of communication, saying the right words, the right sentences, and asking the right question. Like, for example, you mentioned someone probably sending you "and how are you" on LinkedIn, because I think students should understand that LinkedIn is not a WhatsApp, or it's not a family member that they would ask questions like "how are you" and expect a response on that question, and then you begin to have a conversation. Everyone have activities, everyone have what they're doing at the moment, so if you don't go straight to the point on LinkedIn, someone's just going to see the inbox and just kind of ignore it and move on to the next person. But yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that point there, Shona. So, Shannon, now let's talk about finding jobs now on LinkedIn, because so many years ago, LinkedIn began to put that features of jobs. That was so many, because I think way back LinkedIn didn't start featuring jobs. It was just a professional platform for just professionals to just come and socialize and talk. So how can students leverage on the tools available on LinkedIn to find jobs and build their career in the UK?
Yes. So obviously, as you mentioned, LinkedIn in itself, it has kind of a jobs page. And I know a lot of people do find roles from that because it's very easy to turn on alerts for certain keywords and things like that as well. However, I've seen a lot of people getting put off by how many applicants it says roles have. And again, this is one of those things that isn't confirmed, but it is kind of rumored. As often you go onto a job on LinkedIn and it says, 136 people have applied for this role kind of thing. I have heard that apparently that is just people who have followed the link through. It's not necessarily applicants. So I'd say don't be put off if you're looking at a job and you think it's a really good fit, but you see it's had, however many applicants, because we don't know how accurate that number necessarily is. It may just be people that have clicked through that LinkedIn advertisement to go onto the company's website. So I'd say, first of all, don't let that put you off. In terms of job roles in general as well, again, a job role, there's going to be so much information as part of it. A lot of students and graduates self-select themselves out of it if they don't meet absolutely every requirement. And I'd say, don't do that. You might as well apply for it. You never know. Usually companies only look for someone who can do maybe 70, 80%. They don't expect you to be able to do everything perfectly right away, particularly if it is a graduate role. You will learn things, you will develop things. They just need to be able to see the potential that you have to be able to do so. So that's kind of general job description tips. When it comes to applying for roles through LinkedIn, there's often an option that it says, apply through LinkedIn, and it uses the information on your profile to automatically fill out the job application. I'd say where possible, avoid doing that and try going onto the company's actual website itself. Again, you can use LinkedIn to find these roles. It's a really good place to have it all in one place. But then when you found the role in the company, try and search through the company's website directly, as that removes one kind of stage from the process and makes it more likely that your application is going to be seen by a human and it's not going to get kind of screened out as part of the process. As again, we don't entirely know exactly what LinkedIn does with all of these applications. And that way as well, you can tailor it, because you may have loads of information on your LinkedIn profile, but it might not all be tailored to that role. So, use LinkedIn's job page to search for roles. And then when you found it, go to that company's website and try and apply through there where possible. What you can also do, which is one of my favorite things to do on LinkedIn, is a little bit of stalking. And if you do find a company that's advertising for a role, chances are, again, they're going to have a company page. If you go onto their company page, there's a little bit that says people. And if you click on that, you can see everyone that's working for that company who's on LinkedIn. So even if they're not a really big company, you'll be able to see the relevant people to connect with. And then you can send them a connection request, say, I am considering applying for this job role with your company. I was wondering if you had any application tips, or I was wondering if you could tell me about how you landed your role with the company, things like that as well. Again, you can do it all within the same platform on LinkedIn quite a lot of the time. So those are my kind of initial tips when it comes to job searching on LinkedIn. But yeah, definitely turn on notifications as well for roles that you're interested in. I think LinkedIn allows you to do that, and that way you can make sure you're doing it kind of as soon as possible whenever relevant things pop up.
Thank you so much for that, Shona. And I think one point you mentioned was what my team is building a video on. I mean, we've shot the video already. It's around the numbers of applications, numbers of applicants that you see on LinkedIn. So we've been able to identify that it is the users that follows through the link, even without applying. So LinkedIn just automatically counts that as an application. Compared to some couple of job boards when you see a particular vacancy on the job board and you need to go to the company's website to make the application. So when you click on the job board's link and you go to the company's actual job application board, the job board, maybe Indeed or Aduna, would then ask you, did you finish your application on the company's job board? So I think LinkedIn does not have that features yet. So LinkedIn just counts everyone who goes on the job page, follows through the link, and just felt like they've make their application. But thank you so much for mentioning that. But then, like you said, it's always important for students to follow through to the company's website and make applications from their website, so that actually human being can actually go through it. Now, we've been able to spot, you've been able to share quite a lot of insights as to how students can optimize their LinkedIn and their personal branding. What would you say around students who are a bit nervous, that don't have a LinkedIn profile yet, or maybe they have a LinkedIn profile that is just dormant? So what would you say to them? How do you think they can break away from the shell and begin to use LinkedIn for their advantage?
I'd say something that at least helped me personally feel quite confident in what I was doing is looking at what other people were doing. As I think something that holds a lot of students and graduates back on LinkedIn is being unfamiliar with the platform, being unfamiliar with the expectations and kind of what's normal on there, because it is so different to Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everything like that. So by all means, look at other people's profiles, see what information they have on there, see what they're posting about, and get inspired from what other people are doing. If you see someone's written a really good about me section, think, okay, what is it about that that's made it good? It's like, oh, well, their first sentence actually focuses on their hobbies, or their last sentence encourages people to send them a message if they're interested. And looking at what other people are doing could be that good first step to give you that little bit of excitement to create your own. And again, it feels less intimidating if you know that's what's expected of you. So if you see, after reading, however many LinkedIn posts, you'll get an idea for how people structure them, how they begin, how long they are. And then when you know what's expected, it can be a lot easier to start doing it yourself, as opposed to going in and thinking, well, how much information do I put on here? What do I talk about here? So I'd say, that first step is seeing what other people are doing, have fun, have a little bit of a stalk. Connect with people who you already know, or previous bosses, your university lecturers, just to get that initial ball rolling. Is probably a really good place to start.
Thank you so much for that, Shona. I just remembered a particular segment on LinkedIn, which is the recommendation segment. How can students use that features for their advantage?
Yes, so is that in terms of them getting other people to recommend them on their own profiles?
Yeah.
Yes. So, a fantastic way to demonstrate to employers that you are, everything you say you are, that you say you're trustworthy, is asking people to give you a recommendation on LinkedIn. And you can do this by, first of all, people giving like an actual written recommendation. And then people can also add a thing with your skills section to say, I know so-and-so has these particular skills as well. And again, that for employers gives them a little bit of proof in regards to your skills. So you can ask your university lecturers for this, your university tutors. You can ask anyone who you've done previous experience with. Or if you're yet to get any experience, I always recommend starting to do little voluntary bits in areas that you're interested in. Volunteering to manage the social media of like a charity near you, volunteering to write a blog for a certain website, any little bits and pieces where you can help out to get someone to get to know you and be able to give you a little review and a little recommendation. As soon as you've got that quote, that's fantastic. You could use that in your portfolio. You could use that on your CV. Again, it's someone else backing up you have the skills you say you have. But I'd say university tutors are usually a good kind of port of call for that, as they know you. And then when you start to get experience, getting these people who have either mentored you or anything like that to, again, just write a couple of sentences about your kind of nature, who you are as a person, that you're trustworthy. All of these things can be really helpful to, as I say, prove that you are all that you say you are.
Thank you so much for that, Shona. So, Shona, I think we've been able to break down a lot of the elements of LinkedIn today, and also how students can optimize their personal branding. So, what do you think we've not spoken about?
So I feel like we covered, most of the basics. And honestly, whenever I talk about LinkedIn to students, I'm so cautious about not overwhelming people with information. But I'd say probably the most important thing about LinkedIn is consistency. Keeping that energy levels, keeping sending out connection requests, keeping conversations going consistently is far more important than panicking and spending 8 hours on it every single day for a week and then leaving your profile for a couple of months. I'd say consistency is definitely the most important thing. LinkedIn is a long game. It takes a while to build up your connections, for people to get to know you and recognize you, to put out consistently good posts out there. It takes time, which is why a lot of students and graduates, I think, aren't making the most of it, because first of all, they don't know how, but second of all, it genuinely does take quite a lot of effort and quite a lot of energy to maintain that sort of energy over a period of time, particularly if you don't see results right away. If people don't accept at first. So I'd say the most important thing is keep that consistency. If you need to, giving yourself little things to do, like little targets. So maybe every other day you comment on 3 posts, and then every other day you send out 3 connection requests to interesting people. Little bursts, you don't have to spend hours on it at a time. 10 minutes every day or every other day can really build up over time and make that difference. So yeah, consistency is probably the most underrated kind of skill that I think students and graduates can use on LinkedIn.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Shona. So what would be your last word for students out there who have just listened to you and want to take their first step into optimizing their LinkedIn profile?
I'd say get started. Don't put it off. The longer you put it off, it's still going to be there. It's still going to need filled out. It's far better to do a draft now and then realize you need to update it in a week than to have not started at all, because it really does take time. So I'd say get started and, get practicing. By all means, send a connection request to me to practice starting a conversation. People but as I say, doing one thing is better than doing nothing. So the sooner you can start, the better. You're creating these opportunities for you. You're the person that is going to benefit. So the more energy you put in, the more energy you're going to get out from it as well. And don't be discouraged if things don't kind of pop off right away. You literally never know what is around the corner.
Thank you so much for your time today, Shona. It has been an exciting time with you, sharing your experience and your knowledge around personal branding, because I know there's a lot you actually want to talk about today, aside other elements that also can make students to stand out within their job search, most especially within the UK job market. But thank you so much for your time today, Shona.
Thank you very much for having me. LinkedIn is one of those things that we're very rarely taught about. So it's fantastic to be able to give people even this initial advice to just get started and to kind of help people on their journey. So yeah, hopefully looking forward to a lot more people figuring out how to use LinkedIn and creating their own opportunities from it in the future.